Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me on Instagram as Skeindeer, and I am a designer called Skeindeer Knits on Ravelry. And on Ravelry you can find my group Skeindeer Knits, which is the best place to get in touch and take part in knit-alongs whenever I do giveaways. And yeah, just taking part in the Skeindeer Knits community. Speaking of giveaways, I just want to say up front, I know I promised to do a giveaway for when we reach 15,000 subscribers, and we have indeed reached 15,000 subscribers, and thank you all so much for wanting to stick around and keep up to date with these videos. But I haven't gotten my act together to do that, so we're gonna do that next time, hopefully. Sorry, it will happen. It's just there's been a lot going on. I'm gonna get to that, but beforehand, if you're a new viewer, sorry to drop you off in the deep end. This is a knitting podcast, or a knitting video series, talk show, what have you. It's just where I talk about knitting for about an hour every week, but I have not recorded in I think like 3 weeks or more, so we have a lot to catch up with. So for returning viewers, welcome back. You know the drill. It's gonna be a lot of stuff. So gonna give a brief overview. I just got back from Fibres in the north of London in Flitwick, and before that I got back from my 3-day stay in Norway. Yeah, I'm gonna get to the sort of details for all that stuff later on, because there's gonna be a massive acquisition section because of all the stuff I've done, been places, been and all that stuff. So yeah, but before we do that, I want to go through the admin section, which is basically just listing the knit-alongs I am running. I am running the year-long knit-along of 2019, where we aim to make 6 pairs of colourwork mittens for the duration of 2019. They only have to be started this year and finished this year, so more rules about that in my group. As ever, it's never too late to join in. Same goes for Kofter, although I'm not sure, maybe it is late to join in. I haven't decided when to finish it. I said end of summer. We are approaching August, so I'm gonna touch base with the knit-along thread and ask yeah, how people feel like things are going, if they want to keep it for longer, or yeah. So if you have opinions about that, then do drop that into that thread that I'm probably going to link to below as well, so we can figure out how long to keep it running for. Because yeah, it's been quite hot, so maybe like myself last year, you maybe haven't felt like knitting on a massive woolly beast like that cardigan, so that's completely understandable. Anyway, that is the admin side out of the way. So I'm gonna start talking about some very exciting news, but just as an upfront, I am feeling a little bit, I'm not sure, like I haven't done this in some weeks, and I've spent the past weeks just chatting a lot. I feel a bit congested. I'm not alone home, so I'm just gonna try to, yeah, keep it at a low volume for the sake of my voice, the whole respiratory situation, and because I live with people who maybe want to sleep in on a Sunday morning. So that's where that's at. But yeah, I want to get into something that I am so excited about. This was completely unplanned. It was just an idea that dropped into my head, where I had this idea to do this shawl, and I was like, yeah, it could be like a sideways thing, and I can imagine how I would do the shape, and I don't think it's been done before. And I was like, I kept thinking about it, and then at the same time I had this idea for a summer top, and I kept thinking about that too, and then I started doing it. I was like, well, I've got 2 garments, and they're sort of based around the same idea of using Scandinavian lace charts, and I was like, well, if I add 1 more pattern, that's a set. That could be a pattern collection. So I thought, well, it could be some socks. Yeah, socks. And then I did all 3 of them, and I was like, 3 is not a set, 4 is a set. So I thought I could do a 4th pattern as well. I had to stop myself before I did a 5th, because if I'd done that, I'd just never be finished, and I got all the things I need to do. That's a lot more pressing, really. But yeah, I made a summer collection. just like that. I say just like that. It wasn't easy. I feel like sometimes I give that impression on this podcast that it's just all super easy, and I'm just like, oh, I just came up with this thing. It's like, no big deal. It takes a lot of work and brain capacity and effort and maths, but it's done, and it's done, and I'm really pleased to be able to show you all of it. So, oh, I don't know where even to begin. Let's start with the first one that I finished of them all. This one you will have seen before because I wore it, I think, last episode. If you want to see how it looks when wearing it, just check that out. But I'm going to hold it up so you can see it. This is how it looks when I'm not wearing it. So it's essentially a rectangle for the front and one for the back. And you'd think that just looked like a square, but because it's such a loose gauge and it's quite a drapey yarn and garter, it just shapes itself. So it will naturally dip for the neckline, giving you a lot of air around the neck when it's super hot, and kind of drop off the shoulders. You get this sort of nice t-shirt effect. Yeah, it's just, it shapes itself. And even the lace, the way it sort of opens things up, and because you cast things up in the underarm, it sort of starts to flare out just on itself, so it gives a slight A-line, and altogether it is just a very flattering top, which I could never have planned for. I literally just thought this was going to be the simplest top I would ever design. 2 rectangles, that's it. Don't care if it's flattering, it's just going to be a practical summer wear. It ended up being just this like beautiful self-shaping, draping thing that, okay, I'm gonna try it on again, whatever. So just to give you an idea. Right, it's going to look weird with the thing I'm wearing under, which we'll get to as well. So you get the idea. It looks like a t-shirt, basically. The lace looks absolutely lovely, I think. Very proud of that. You got basically 3 kind of flowers, if you will. Like, we're trying to create a summer vibe here. So yeah, that's essentially the Solvik shirt. Yes. So we're gonna start revealing the names of the patterns as well. So Solvik is, well, it is actually the name of a farm, or like a small holding in my family, and it translates to Sun Cove. So yeah, that's basically what that means, and you will start to notice a common theme with the pattern names. So just to talk a little bit about the construction of this shirt, you basically start to cast on all stitches from the front all the way to here. Yes, so this is the entire line. It just happens to dip on its own, and you work that flat with the lace worked in the front until you're at the underarm. You put that aside, you start casting on for this length, and then so from here to here, then you do a cast on that's not picked up here, and then you start picking up stitches from here again. This will be clear on the pattern. Then you work down and you join under the arms, and there's a neat little trick that means you are essentially working flat to avoid purling, but it's still being joined in the round. I'm very pleased with that, and yeah, it's so simple. It's so simple and it's so fast, and I used, I think, around about like 600 meters. I have, again, that's all the meterage stuff is in the pattern and on the pattern page. So yeah, there's I shouldn't be giving away the entire pattern on the podcast, but I am quite excited. This is so far outside my designer comfort zone. Like, if you'd asked me a year ago or 2, I would have said all I can do is mittens. That's just all I can do. I'm gonna just design mittens until mittens are no longer trendy, and then I guess I'll have to find another job. But I have continuously tried to expand my abilities, and I've suddenly made this thing, which I hope is gonna jive with people the way it did with me when I was knitting it. Because when it's summer and it's hot, I don't know, I find like I drop 10 IQ points per degree Celsius. You know, I just can't think, and I want something simple, and I don't want to work on something really hot and, like, you know. So this was perfect for that. It was quick, it didn't require too much brain capacity, and the yarn was quite comfortable to handle in the heat and obviously to wear. And I have worn this a lot. So TMI moment, when I'm sat here working at home, I am kind of just in my undergarments. I am wearing like these cotton leggings and a cotton camisole and obviously the usual underwear, whatever, you don't need to know that. But sometimes I need to go out and do stuff, just a brief, maybe pop by the shop, you know, and I'm like, I shouldn't be wearing that. So I can just throw this thing over and put on my lipstick and it just looks really great. So it's been worn a lot. I love this thing. It's both outside of my comfort zone in terms of style and in terms of, well, what I actually normally design. But it does have its footing in Scandinavian designs, because all the lace charts that I have used in this collection are Scandinavians. I think I mentioned that before in this video as well. I am rambling, but yeah, all the charts are Scandinavian lace charts. Not very helpful charts, mind you, because they don't actually tell you anything about how to knit them. They just tell you what they're gonna look like. So I still had to chart them and kind of try to work out how lace works. Yeah. So I feel like that was a eureka moment, but it does kind of mean that it's still very much my style in the sense that it's got that Scandinavian rooting. Usually these charts would have been used in garter based lace shawls, you know, similar to the Liesning shawl and that kind of thing. So it's kind of like you get to wear one of those shawls instead, because this is garter still and it is using those charts, but it's suddenly a summer garment. So yeah, anyway, we've got a lot of patterns to get to, so I'm just gonna swiftly move over to the next one and get this thing off, because layers, nah. I almost forgot to mention the yarn. I used Rowan Creative Linen. I picked this yarn up at Liberty in London. Yeah, it's a really nice, basically, I would argue, worsted weight linen yarn. A linen cotton blend, I should say, and it's quite nice and soft already. Really easy to work with. If you don't want to use that yarn, I can imagine that Sandnes Line, which I'll talk about a bit later, would be suitable. I generally aim for something worsted to DK. Rowan calls this DK, I would argue it's a worsted, but yeah, it's up to you. It's a very loose gauge. It will nonetheless be quite see-through because it's a summer garment. Just, you know, wear whatever you want underneath or nothing, whatever. So I used Rowan Creative Linen. I will be putting some alternatives that I can imagine would work in the pattern, but the only yarn I have tried and can guarantee is, of course, Rowan Creative Linen, but I haven't been sponsored or worked with anyone. I'm happy to endorse any yarn that I think may or may not work. Oh, I'm not going to endorse the yarn I don't think will work. What am I saying? Anyway, next thing, these socks you will have seen before if you watched last episode, but this is part of the collection. This is the Solskinn socks. That means sunshine. And I made these out of Garnsud Søkke Merino. Now, I've told you a lot about Garnsud before. They are an amazing yarn dyeing company in Norway that works. It started off with being like a language course for refugee women in Norway, and it became a yarn dyeing company where refugee women work. I believe there are these 4 women who work there and bring in like all their unique ideas of how to dye the yarns from, you know, their various backgrounds, experiences, cultures, and it's fabulous. And as ever, I will always recommend that you learn more about Garnsud and what they do. They are amazing, and I'm so incredibly happy to be supporting them. So yeah, I bought this skein from a local yarn shop, Knit with Attitude, where they sell this yarn, where you can easily get hold of it if you are international. I'm sure you can from Garnsud as well, to be honest. Check both if you're curious. So this is their superwash merino nylon yarn with a really nice colorway. But of course you can use any hand-dyed sock yarn you want, or even commercial sock yarn. If it's fingering weight, it will work. And as ever, the lace chart is from Scandinavian lace motifs, but I've translated it from garter to stockinette. So it looks a little bit more oblong than it would have normally done. It would have been a bit more squashed together, and I quite like this sort of diamond shape. I thought that was really cool. Other than that, it is actually my personal vanilla sock recipe, and I have now translated that into 3 different sizes. You get 3 stitch counts, which I think are kind of the standard stitch count out there, I come to realize. I didn't know at the time, but yeah, 64 stitches is the medium, kind of the middle size, whatever that means, and then you got 56 and 72 that fall outside of that. So yeah, and it's got my favorite heel in it. This heel you can really only get, I think, in my colorwork socks pattern, but now you can also get it in this, in now 3 different sizes. So that's something. So it's basically a very short heel flap where the gusset also isn't very dramatic. It's really nice to use for self-striping on this heel, and there's a lot of space under the heel for half a German shorter heel. So I quite like it. It sits really nice on my heel despite not having a very long heel flap, because most of the heel goes here. So yeah, really pleased with these socks. They are cuffed down and they were really quick to knit, as that's pretty much going to be the case for this entire collection, because you've seen how quickly I managed to knit up these samples. Now I'm not going to even mention how long it took me to actually write them up and fix them, and I'm actually, at the time of recording this, still not quite done, but at the time you will be seeing it, it will be patterns ready out for purchase. It does take a long time, but more so on the paper and on my computer than actually knitting it. Knitting it was really quick. This was very quick. This is as quick as any other vanilla socks you will have made, so depending on your personal speed. And also, just like as a side note, I don't really think we should kind of place too much value on how quick we are as knitters. I don't think there's any point in that. Just go, oh, but you're such a quick knitter and I'm such a slow knitter. And it's like, well, that's both great. But I think we can all appreciate a pattern that will allow us to be quicker if you want to get something ready soon. So that's kind of why I just thought I'd bring that up. But it's not like I think you're better if you're faster or whatever. I think, nah, we're not here for that. Now, the third out of the 4 patterns that I want to show you, I am incredibly excited about. This was actually the last one I cast off, but it was the first one I cast on. Not because it was a slow one, just because, I don't know, I really enjoyed working on it, and it's a shawl. And I know what you're thinking, Ellie, why would you make a woolly shawl for summer? Well, this is a Scandinavian summer collection, okay? And in the summers, the evenings can get a little bit chilly. They don't get cold, but if you're wearing this kind of thing the whole day and then it starts getting darker, and who am I kidding, it doesn't get dark in Scandinavia. But, you know, it gets a bit cooler in the evening, but you still want to sit out and enjoy, you know, the midnight sun or whatever, which we don't get as far south as I'm from, but whatever, we can imagine it, okay? Okay. And it gets cooler, so I'm getting to, and you want to drape something over your shoulders, and so it's a good thing you've got this shawl. So that's kind of the thinking behind this one. And I called it the Solverv shawl because Solverv means solstice, and I thought it's kind of clever because solstice is both in the summer and winter, and this thing you can use both summer and winter. It's a nice drape over the shoulder kind of shawl in the summer, but in the winter, guess what? It's a scarf. Ha! Ha! It's like so clever. I invented shawls that can be used as scarves, as if we don't all use shawls like scarves. Am I right? I do anyway. So I'm gonna actually show you the whole thing now. I'm gonna try anyway. There's a lot of stuff in the background, which we will get to. It's gonna be a very long episode, this one. Might be in 2 parts, I hope not. So, whoa, corner to corner, so you start casting. I don't know if this is the cast off end, but you start in one corner, and it doesn't have a front and back even, this thing. It's garter, so it doesn't really matter. So you start to increase both for the body and the lace border at the same time. At some point you will find that you have obviously got all the stitches you need for the lace border, so that's knit plain while you're still increasing for the body of the shawl until you're done, and then it's all straight, repeating the same thing until you're almost at the length that you want, where you start decreasing for the body again, and then at the end you start to decrease for the actual side, the lace thing. So yeah, the final corner. Hope that made sense, but there's a pattern if it doesn't. So yeah, it's this big massive garter beast, and it weighs less than 200 grams. All these things are super light. I think very few of them weigh more than 200 grams. Because you want to wear them in the summer. You don't want to wear something really hot and heavy. So, whoa, light shawl. And I'm using really big needles. I think I used a 5.5mm for the Solvik shirt, and I used a 6mm for this shawl, which, yes, it uses fingering weight yarn, and this is why I keep recommending non-superwash woolen spun yarns for my shawl patterns, because you can use really big needles and get a really good fabric with it despite it being fingering weight yarn. The yarn I've used is Snelden yarns. It's Snelden 4 ply, but it's got 2 plies. It's one of those things. And yeah, fingering weight. You could use like Jameson Spindrift, Jameson 2 ply jumper weight, Rauma Finul garn, maybe whole super soft. It might be a little bit on the fine side, but you know what, I wouldn't rule it out. I think it would be really lovely. Tricky wool fingering will be amazing. Loft by Brooklyn Tweed, my goodness, that would be amazing. So basically, yeah, if you find the yarn to be comfortable around the neck and it's a woolen spun non-superwash, you could use it. That's basically the rule. You can use any yarn you want, but I don't think you're going to be very happy with the superwash yarn for this kind of gauge, but never say never, you know. It's basically, yeah, it's a wrap, it's a shawl, it's a scarf. I personally prefer to wear it the way I wear all my shawls, which is kind of like this. Basically, just have them around here. Obviously I can start to pull a bit down so that lace hangs a bit lower here, and I can tuck this around a bit like that, you know. That's kind of, it's my preferred method. I probably use this a lot in the winter and the autumn as well, but it will definitely be good to have just hanging over my shoulders when I'm still sat outside and it's getting a little cooler. The story behind that shawl. I don't think I have much else to say. I'm just really pleased with its versatility, how airy and light it is, and the fact that I came up with the shaping. In and of itself, the shape of the shawl isn't anything new. It's just a corner to corner where you work the main body just straight, but because I did the knitted on border simultaneously as the shawl, because I can't bear doing knitted on borders after, it just became this, yeah, do it all in one go kind of shawl with a very particular shape, because of the way that these two shapes that you work simultaneously work together. They will sort of become this shape, which is, yeah. That's the Solveig shawl, again using lace charts from old Scandinavian shawls, so fairy style shawls and things like that. Same thing through and through. I'm now just repeating myself, so I'm going to swiftly move on to the final and fourth pattern in the collection, and I am wearing it. I actually had to look for this quite a bit. I wasn't sure where I'd put it, and it turns out it was in my laundry basket because I've been wearing this a lot. It's one of the most wearable things I've made. It's certainly the most wearable thing I've ever made for summer, that and the Solvik shirt. And this is Soleil Shell. Thank you all so much for helping me find a word for a tank top that starts with an S, because I wanted everything to start with S. And I had to laugh because the amazing Locatelli just came out with a sweater called the Super Simple Summer Sweater or something like that. And I'm like, damn it! I was gonna do the Super Simple Summer shirt, but that was fine. Doesn't upset me. I thought that was really, really funny, and I could like reassure myself that, you know, great mind things alike, which, like, it's a big thing to say because I wouldn't dare to compare myself to Hoey, but yeah. So she went there first, and I started looking for other things starting with an S. So I went with Solvik, Solskinn, Solverv and Soleil. So this is a Soleil shell. I'm gonna get up and show you. It is, yeah, it's a bit transparent, so you know, you might want to wear a bra underneath or something, bralette, a bit of a tank top, whatever you like to wear. People have different preferences, and you know what, if you want to wear nothing underneath, awesome, you know. But I just thought, you know, it's a little bit, it's all very thin fabrics, these, because you don't want to be hot, and that's just the thing with knitwear. You have to knit them really tight for them to not be see-through, and then they're going to be really warm. So there we have it. This is Soleil, so it's kind of convenient that I'm wearing a spotted dress or skirt, so you can actually see this, but you can see it anyway, I suppose. So yeah, it is quite short, but it is top down. Same with Solvik. So if you want to knit longer, just knit it longer. And you also want to be mindful of, you know, the drape of your yarn. This is a cotton linen blend by Skeindeer. I'm going to show you. So this yarn here is what I used, and linen wants to drape and cotton wants to pull up, so it kind of cancels each other, but I have found it pulled up a little bit, so you might want to consider that when you knit it, that your yarn may make it shorter, so you might want to knit a bit longer just to counteract that, or the other way around. If the yarn's going to drape, you might want to knit a bit shorter. Yeah. Where do we begin? So construction. You start off with casting on shoulder to shoulder for the back, and then I borrowed a little thing from the ziggurat technique where you work the short rows to raise these two beds so that the neckline in the back can drop just a slight bit to create a rounded neck for the back, so it's not just straight across. It's really clever. I've seen a lot of satin sleeves designs do that, but they will make you work these two separately, so that you cast on very few stitches before you get to cast on for the length of the back, and or the width of the back, whatever. And I find the ziggurat method so much better because you get to cast on all the stitches right away. You get a lot fewer ends to weave in, which I think you can all appreciate. So yeah, and then you work the length of the back flat until the underarm. Before the underarm obviously start to increase a bit, so you get that nice rounded armhole that you can see here. So kind of it's a bit rounded. Basically a satin sleeve design without sleeves, if you are familiar with that. So you do the same thing for the front. You cast them for a strap. I didn't do any short row shaping here because it's a strap, I don't care. So I work that down here. You start to increase for the neckline, and then you cast on for the neckline, you knit flat, and then you start increasing for the front, same as you did with the back, and cast on for the underarm, and then you work it in the round, and you do that until you want to start working the flowers. Yes, the flowers. That is why it's called solea, because solea is a kind of family of flowers. Yeah, cool. Whoa, flowers. Really have to like stand on my tiptoes for this. Hang on. There. Huh. Whoa. And I love it that it's so short, because as I've said before, I got like big difference between these measurements. It's like 41 inches, 48, 49 maybe, I'm not sure. So when things stop here, it's like I don't have to, you know, increase or anything. So I quite like doing that. So in terms of yarns, if anyone wants to use any other yarns, I would have loved to see this in Holst Coast, which is a wool cotton blend. Again, that will depend on your tolerance for wools in the summer, but I would reckon that if you have half of the yarn just being wool, it's going to add to the breathability of the yarn. So I think that would still be quite nice. Tynn by Sandnes, that will be another good example. I have been able to look up a yarn so you could use with knit picks, I think, for both of the garments. So if you are overseas and you're looking for affordable commercial yarns, the knit picks I think have alternatives for most of these designs. The sock yarn, the shawl, the shirt, the shell. So yeah, there should be lots of yarns out there. But yeah, if you want to use the same that I used, Skeindeer, Bomullin, Snalden for apply for the shawl, Garnstood Söki Merino for the socks, and Rowan Creative Linen for the shirt. But yeah, I always say just substitute yarn. It's always fun. I gave a little bit of a sort of reflection around this particular design on Instagram. I'm not sure I communicated very clearly, but basically I'm going to get a bit personal here. I have massive hang-ups about short sleeve designs, short sleeves garments, short sleeve anything. I am more comfortable with a t-shirt that stops just a little bit here, because I have upper arms that just make me self-conscious, and there's nothing wrong with them and nobody else cares. But of course I've internalized everything that literally every beauty campaign out there have told me, and that is that this jiggly thing here is wrong and bad and scary. And I'm like, well, this is the history of my body's life, of having been very big and then suddenly become a lot smaller, and now having gained a bit again, and just like the ever fluctuating changes of my body. And my body is who I am. I am not just in here behind these eyes. I am all of this. This jiggly thing here, it is me. And feeling like that needs covering up is... oh, I have feelings about this. So that's kind of what I try to say on Instagram is, look Jiggly, it's fun, look at my funny elbows that kind of wrinkle over so it looks like a Muppet, you know. If you can just like poke fun at things, just like, well, it's a body, it's a body, it's a body. It's not like you have to go, oh, that's hideous, oh, that is so beautiful. It doesn't have to be either. It can just be... it can just be what it is. And you can just go, ah, you can just go, oh look, it's just the thing, it's just the thing I'm observing, and I am not attaching value to it. I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad, it's just a body and it's just me. And I find that so helpful in making that little sort of psychological step into wearing short sleeves in the summer, so that the heat is just a little bit more bearable and I feel a lot less self-conscious. I'm not going to say that I have found the answer. This is sometimes why I am so hesitant to take part in body positivity, because I feel like I'm not walking the walk. I still have all these issues with myself and I have all these hang-ups, and it feels like everyone else who's taking part in it have it like all figured out and they're just prancing around with their great pride in their bodies, and I'm just not there. But I want to be, and I support it, and it's like what I believe. Where was I going with this? Yeah, I just think it's just bodies. They're neither bad nor beautiful, they're just bodies. We don't need to say everybody's beautiful, because beauty in itself, why is that so important? Why are we all being valued by our beauty? Why have we decided that that is like the most important thing? Can I just not be beautiful? Can I just like be allowed to wake up in the morning and kind of look meh, and that's fine? And why is beauty the thing that I have to be? I think that's where I was going with that. See, I just kind of carrying that in my mind instead of trying to convince myself that, oh, it's just, oh, it's so beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm just, it's all right. Am I making sense? I might edit this out. That was not where I was going with this. This kind of like tangent to this collection, but it was a sort of a thing that was going through my mind as I was working on this particular tank top. Was that, well, Ellie, you gotta get over that bit. And I approached that in the way that made sense to me, and I compared it to how it is when you cast a spell on a boggart so that you can laugh at it and it loses its power. You know, if you know anything about Harry Potter, this will make sense to you. If not, I'm sorry. So that's kind of my jam. It's just going like, ha ha ha, and then what are you gonna do? Are you gonna tell me, oh, that's hideous? Well, I'm already laughing, so you know. Anything to do with, oh yeah, discount codes. Got discount codes for the pattern. If you're new to this, the reason I do discount codes is just because I am so incredibly fortunate to have such a supportive crowd following me here on YouTube that are often very eager to get my patterns early on, and I know you guys would do it regardless, but the fact is that when you do, my patterns start trending on Ravelry and people see them there, and people who wouldn't have otherwise heard of them or seen them also buy them, and that is so incredibly helpful, that because you guys are so eager to get them early, other people see them and get them too. And it's kind of like giving back, but it's, yeah, encouraging that whole process. So if you want to use the code, feel absolutely free to do so. More specific stuff to do with how I'm going to apply it to the collection versus individual patterns below. I haven't decided that at the time that I'm recording this, so just read whatever is here. But regardless, thank you all as ever so much for your support. Obviously I wouldn't be able to do any of this without you guys, which is like one of those cliche things that everyone says, but it's true. Obviously I can just sit here and talk to myself every week, but if you guys weren't watching it wouldn't be much. So thank you so much. Goodness me, I have a lot of acquisitions to get through, and I feel like I spent the whole duration of one episode already just talking about this stuff, but I am very excited about it. And before we get to acquisitions, I do have 2 ongoing projects that I wanted to tell you all about, so I'm going to do that first. First, I was approached by my friend Mina of Knitting Expat if I wanted to test knit this particular sweater that she was wearing last time I saw her, because I kept talking about it and like casually stroking it. So yes, I did reassure her that I'm really unreliable and like don't depend on me, but yeah, I can test knit it and, you know, get the garment out there and stuff. And lo and behold, I got the test knitting version, which is already really good, and I'm knitting it. So this is Yorkville, I think it's called, correct me if I'm wrong, Mina. And I have worked down the length of the upper back to the underarm, and from the front I'm working that now. So I've cast on for the front of the neckline even. It's already going really smoothly, and yeah, it's a really nice thing to bring around. It's easy to knit on. I can knit it with other people around. And what else do I have to say? Oh, the yarn. I'm using the exact same yarn that Mina used to design it, because I had it and I had the exact same amount and we were making the exact same size, I think. So that's pretty cool. And it was really funny when I was going to wind the skein. So this is Green Mountain Spinnery Music DK, and it's not spelt the way you think, but it's really nice. It's one of those amazing airy lofty New England wools that, you know, I love. And I was going to wind the skein on my Swift, and I held up the hank and I looked at the Swift. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to adjust the pegs. So I got this kind of winder, this babe here, and you have to adjust these pegs if you have a smaller or bigger skein. I was having the hank here and I looked at it and I was just, the yarn is so stretchy. I just did that and it fit, and it's like, it's so bouncy, this yarn. Like, this is so elastic. Like, it's so similar to yarns like Loft in a way, but Loft is not at all elastic. I mean, if you keep doing this at Loft, it will just break off, but this is strong and it's so elastic. It kind of has the elasticity of a lot of Quince & Co yarn. I kept thinking Quince & Co, I was like, that can't be right. Like, brain, come on, get on with it. Anyway, so yeah, just, it's bouncy. I can't explain it. It just stretched out on my hands. I really like it. It's so nice to work with, because I find that a lot of these lovely woolly yarns that I love to knit, that I love to wear, I should say, I don't often love to knit because they can be quite hard and rough to work with, but this is really comfortable to work with, and it kind of works with you rather than against you. Yeah, I think that describes it perfectly. So I am enjoying the yarn, and yes, the design, I haven't really had any trouble with the pattern despite it being a test knitting version. It's already really good, and I like it. It's sort of like sits somewhere between a drop sleeve shoulder and a satin sleeve, in the sense that it is drop shoulder, kind of goes here, but it does also shape a bit for the underarm, a bit like, you know, this tank top and sort of, yeah, your usual satin sleeve. So I have enjoyed that. It was, yeah, piece of cake to follow, which doesn't surprise me. Mina is a very precise person, if that makes any sense. She always got things to figure out. Like, if ever I'm like kind of a bit of a lost puppy, I'm just like, Mina, what's happening? And Mina always is on top of things. So yeah, sort of interestingly reflected in her patterns. So I am really enjoying that knit, and you will probably see more of it in the future. So the other thing I've been working on a lot this past week, while I was on a brief holiday that I'm going to talk about in acquisitions, I started this little top. I've been wanting to make it for a while, and I got the Kalinka linen yarn from my local yarn shop, Wild and Woolly, a while ago, and I showed it to you back then, and then I cast it on like 3 times and failed miserably, and at the end I was just like, why am I so bad at counting? And then I cast it on again and I had to rip it out. I'm like, really? Why? No, I think that was the 3rd time, because I can't count. So I did it at last and it made it work. So when I did it the 4th time, it did work out really well, and I've done the whole lace section for the yoke. Look at that. Isn't that just gorgeous? And you know what, the lace is actually really simple. I was knitting on this while chatting away to our friend I met up with one on holiday, and yeah, I'm hoping this is not going to be too wide a neck opening. I don't have the broadest shoulders ever, so hoping it'll stay on. But I am also pleased that the neck opening is a lot bigger than my usual neck openings are, because it's a summer garment and I don't need to be covered up all around here when I'm trying to stay cool. So yeah, so I'm working up the stockinette now, and I'm just going to keep doing that, I think, until it's done. There is a lot of shaping instructions for this thing, but I quite like just having linen kind of hang and drape around me like this. I think that works well for the summer, so I'm probably going to do that for this top as well. Now, the design, whatever. This is designed by Norwegian designer Lene Tøsti. You will know about her if you know, have bought any Bladet Garn or Lane magazine. She's been in both. She's a very talented designer. Yes, from Norway. We're very proud of her, and this is just amazing. And I love her eye to detail. I also love that Bladet Garn just let her kind of pattern designing and writing style. They always leave that in the pattern, even in their own publications. They don't try to force a pattern to fit into their magazine. I am allowed to have my patterns the way I prefer them in their magazine, and you can tell that so is Lena, and I'm really enjoying her style. Yeah, and obviously I'm loving this color. So this is called Regnskog, and it's from the blue issue of Bladet Garn. I think it came out last summer. And yeah, I'm not making it blue, obviously, I'm making it burgundy. They have several really nice red shades, Kalinka. I think they got 3 really nice ones, but I went with the most burgundy of them. It's like borderline maroon actually, which usually I avoid because maroon is a bit brown. But I still think this is really nice. So we're hoping this will be done soon. It's amazing to bring around because I only really have the stockinette left to go, and now I dropped a lot of stitches. But you know what, that's the other thing I have to say about this. I am really enjoying knitting with linen. I didn't think I would, but look at that. Okay, I've dropped all these stitches. I'm gonna just put my needle back in them. Look at that. Because when you knit with linen, it's like you bent a straw and you just got this kink in it, and then it just stays that way. And I don't know, it works really well with me. I started casting on this other thing in a cotton wool blend that I will get to, and it seems so rough by comparison because the linen is so slick and smooth, and I think it's probably because I'm a very tight knitter and it just felt very, very smooth to work with. I thought it was going to be quite hard on my hands, which people also say about cotton, which I've never found with cotton personally. So yeah, I'm really enjoying knitting with linen. This is definitely not my last linen top. And if I'd heard myself, if like Ellie last summer heard Ellie this summer, she wouldn't know what she was hearing. Yeah, if Ellie last year could have heard Ellie this year, she probably would have been very confused, because I used to say I would never make linen garments and summer garments. Like, that's not knitting to me. Knitting is like woolly things and color work, and now I'm like, no, this is the thing. I love this thing. I love making these summer tops because summers are just getting hotter and longer, sadly, and well, I don't feel like myself if I'm not wearing knitwear, to be honest. So having knitwear that is summer suitable, and if it also helps me to get over my hang-ups about this whole situation, then it's a win-win. Because I don't think I would have been that inclined to wear a tank top I just purchased, but it's, you know, the pride of having made it that means I'm wearing it and overcoming all these bodily hang-ups. I think that's kind of where I wanted to get to with all that. I'm not a great communicator. Like, why am I podcasting even? It like takes me 10 minutes to find the words. Oh, yeah. So finding a little bit sort of body empowerment, something, while making summer garments, which I never thought I would, but I am, and I'm enjoying it, and I can wholeheartedly recommend it to anyone who's a little bit hesitant out there. It is really fun. So we're finally ready for some acquisitions. Goodness me, this is gonna take a very long time, so bear with me. First thing I have to show you is this beautiful thing that I was given by the lovely Felix, aka Felicity Ford, aka Knit Sonic. She sells this in her online shop, and it's an adult coloring book called Women, Patterns and Plants. I have kept it in this wrapping to keep it pristine until I finally have time to record, so I'm actually going to have my first time look at it myself right now. So this is, oh, it's shiny. Oh, it's so shiny. Anyway, yeah, it's an adult coloring book. Gonna give you just a brief idea, just general, yeah. A self-care coloring book. So this is one that's already been colored in, just to give you an idea. I'm gonna read the blurb. Immerse yourself in divine feminine energy and wonderful natural imagery as you color in the pages of Women plus Patterns plus Plants, a self-care coloring book. These images were created to inspire. Take time to relax, reflect and rekindle your creativity by bringing color to these bold illustrations and find a new sense of joy and comfort within the empowering images on each page. Thank you so much, Felix. This is so shiny. And yeah, so my very first adult coloring book, I think. And yeah, you can get them in her online shop if you're curious. Not directly knitting related, but obviously Felix, and more so her brand Knit Sonic, is obviously very much all about knitting, so yeah. And then there was the Wild and Woolly Knit night that I attended several weeks ago, and there was also Lola of Third Volt Yarns, who I met several times before, but yeah, we had a really nice time there at the knit night. And she also actually sells her yarn at the yarn shop, unless they've run out by now. She did have like this massive basket of her skeins that you could buy from the shop, and towards the end of the knit night we started talking about that, and the base, I mean the base Falklands Poledale, I don't even know what that is. 15% nylon, and I just felt the base and I'm like, okay, just decide on color now, because I need this as socks. And I ended up with this color. I'm gonna try to show you the things that she's done with colors here. Look at that, look at just that red right there. It would be great if it would focus though, like that would help. Yeah, look at that. So it's called Mountain of Fire, which I think adds to, I mean, it is pretty well reflected. I'm thinking like volcano here, like, yeah. So this is going to be some amazing socks. I have not decided on the pattern yet, but yeah, I just love the subtleties of this color, this whole skein. I mean, yeah. So I bought that, and that's from Third Volt Yarns, which may ring a bell if you've been watching this for a very long time, because with the exception of this like one Mantle skein I was given years and years ago, and some Woolmice yarn that I bought, Third Volt Yarns along with Sparkling Duck were the first hand dyers, the first independent yarn dyers I ever bought yarn from. This was the very beginning of this podcast, where I'd been up in Cambridge, and I was like, now I'm gonna try this variegated speckled superwash yarn that everyone's talking about, and I'm gonna figure it out and get what the fuss is. So then I got Sparkle Duck, who's sadly no longer with us, and I got 2 skeins of Third Volt Yarns, and yeah, so it's been a while since I bought, well, it's not true, it's not been a while since I bought her yarn, because I got a skein at the Unravel, I think. So basically this is, I guess, my 4th. Yeah, more on Third Volt Yarns later, but I thought I'd show you this because it's absolutely gorgeous. But I have so much to get through, can't spend this much time on everything even. So yarn festival purchases. I'm gonna cut straight through the first thing that I leapt for at Yarningham, which was Fab Funky Fibres. Like, that was always in my mind. Luckily, the first person I met at the yarn show was a friend of mine, Gail from here in London, and her mum, and so she'd already perused around a bit, and I was like, where did you see Fab Funky Fibres? We have to go there. So I jolted for it, and well, there was no reason to be in such a hurry really, because they had a lot of yarn with them. And if you know anything, if you don't know Fab Funky Fibres, they are one of the very few dyers in the UK who do self-striping yarns as their kind of main thing. They do other colorways as well, but there was this massive wall of just self-striping. How they produced that much is beyond me, but I ended up with these two. So yeah, this one, I've never spent £20 on 50 grams of wool before. Probably never will again, but this was worth it, because seriously, look at that. Look at these colors. I think this is all one rainbow gradient, so I'm not entirely sure how I thought this was going to work out in 2 socks. So gradient may have to start on one sock and finish on the other. I didn't think this through, okay? Just, yeah. So the color is called Walking on Rainbows, and it's a superwash merino and nylon. It's actually got 25% nylon, which I think is pretty neat. So that's the one. That's the other one. I think is called Pride 2. So they have a lot of Pride colorways, lots of rainbow stuff. Love a good rainbow. So this is going to be easier to make 2 socks of, I think. It's the same base but different colorway. So I got to, probably would have gotten more, but I kind of had to restrain myself just a little bit. So yeah, Fab Funky Fibres. So then I walked straight over to the lovely Aisha of Dusty Dimples, and it's always super lovely to see her, and I picked up this skein, and as I was ready to pay for it, she told me it was mine, and I'm like, excuse me, what? And then she meant that she was going to give it to me, and thank you so much. So, and it's kind of funny, she was telling me the name of the colorway, and she says it's called Luna's Thestral, and I'm just like, huh? And as she's explaining to me, I'm like, I know what that, I know Harry Potter, what brain, get on with it. It's like, I am in such a state at yarn shows. I don't think, it's like I'm on a sort of autopilot that I can't even access like the most basic Harry Potter references, and I'm like, Ellie, really? Yeah, but anyway, thank you so much for this skein. It's absolutely beautiful. So let's do a close-up. I mean, you can see the name, right? Thestral. It's no wonder I picked this. It's gorgeous. So probably gonna be another sock pair or some design maybe, or other designs. Just, it's always good to have a sock skein around to do maybe something from Helen Stewart Sock Society. It's been a while since I did that, but yeah. So that's Dusty Dimples for ya. And yeah, she has amazing colorways, like, but of course I went with grey. I mean, I'm so exciting, I went with grey. I love this. I love the subtleties of it. I love the little hints of other colors. There's like greens and yellows and purples and a bit of orange here, and there's a bit of pink, and yeah, there's a lot going on in this skein that kind of draws you in. You have to pay a bit of attention to it, and then you kind of, and yeah, so of course, as ever on a very sturdy base, I am quite picky with my sock bases. I look at almost base before color even. So this is also got a whole 25% nylon. It's got well plied, twisted plies. Oh, language. Yeah, get on with it, Ellie. Anyway, so again, just want to say a massive thank you. Yeah, so moving on. And then I walked over to Chromatic Yarns, which, as you may or may not know, is of course the yarn dyeing company by Hannah of the Corner of Craft podcast. And I've actually never seen her vend. I met Hannah lots of times, but never actually where she's been vending. So this is the first time I'm actually seeing her yarn in person. And I remember way back when she was first dabbling with dyeing, and she like dyed the first 2 skeins, and I was already kind of obsessed with what she did. Like, she did this burgundy or purple or something. Need I say more? So I picked up this sock set from hers that is called Unicorn. On the base, sturdy sock set. Yes, there's a theme here. Also 25% nylon. And the rest of it is blue-faced Leicester, which is even stronger than Merino. Like, if I have a choice, I'll always go with blue-faced Leicester. So this is gonna be basically, yeah, sock in this body where this speckling thing happening here is gonna kind of even out. There was a sample there where you can sort of see it happen. And this will be a contrast for heels and toes and cuffs. I might do a toe up because then I will know how much yarn I have left for the cuffs, and I might just spend it on the toe and the heel. We'll see. So yeah, Chromatic Yarns, just to give you a close-up of that as well. Oh, it's so scrumptious. And I was kind of feeling a little bit out of character because I kept buying yarns that were all superwash hand-dyed yarns, and I wasn't gonna stop there. So I went over to Snuggly Stars Yarns, and she showed me this sample that she'd made, and I just love the drape and the fabric of it, and even quite fell for the colorway. That wasn't my usual, and she had several skeins of that yarn and base and colorway and whole thing. So of course I had to get it, and I did. Look at that. Isn't this going to be an amazing sweater? Okay, yes. I wish I could actually show you the sample, but of course I didn't think to photograph or anything. I never do that. I'm so bad podcaster. Yeah, anyway, so they all look a bit different, but it kind of just depends on how they've been kind of wound into skeins, really, you know, when you twist the hank. You can just look at one. It's called Blue Rainbow because it's kind of primarily blue. Just get it into focus, that would be great. Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, it's so nice. And the base, this base, I'm seeing this base a lot lately, and I'm really pleased because it's so versatile and beautiful and strong and drapey, but not like saggy, and shiny, and really pleased to see a lot of hand dyers use this, despite it being a superwash. It's not usually my forte, but if I'm gonna go with superwash, 70% superwash merino, 20% yak, 10% nylon. So technically should work pretty okay for socks. For garments, I've seen amazing garments in this base, and just, yeah, it's a good all-round base in a fingering weight yarn. That's Snuggly Stars Yarns, and I don't even know what kind of design I'm gonna design, like whose design or my design or whatever. Maybe I'm gonna make the same t-shirt that she did. I haven't decided. It's so pretty. It's just, doesn't it make you happy? Just, anyway, I have to move on. There's so much stuff, but I have a few other things here as well. She gave me this pin when I was making the purchase, and look at that. Just look at that. I mean, I did encourage her to do an equivalent with a schnauzer, so I'm hoping to see that next. And I also had this lovely girl come up to me and give me this pin, and we've actually met earlier at the Wild and Wool Knit night, so she gave me that pin. That was really nice, and of course I recognized it from Instagram later. I'm really bad at putting two and two together and like recognizing people from online. So yeah, it was really lovely to meet you finally. That, yeah, same thing with Snuggly Star Yarns as well. It's like later I'm like, oh yeah, it's you, I know you, and I'm like, yeah, that's my brain. We could have conversations about my brain. But anyway, so the final purchase that I made, I'd actually already planned to buy from Tribe Yarns in London, because I asked Millie if she was going to stock this when I saw this in person from the first time I met Jimmy, who has created this beautiful publication. This is JimiKnits Volume 1, and she was actually selling it at the show, so that's just, yeah, of course I had to buy it. So sorry Millie, I'm sure lots of other people buy it from the shop, but yeah, I went straight to the source. It is going to be a little bit hard to show you the designs in here because they're all on the same page as some details about the patterns that I obviously don't want to share. So I'm gonna try see if I can choose some. There is this top here. This sweater I'm seriously thinking of making. Also this sweater is beautiful. So yeah, Jimmy is also a London-based designer, and yeah, her first volume. I like that it's called volume 1. You know, I like the impliedness of there being a volume 2, maybe 3. So yeah, Jim is amazing. Really, really pleased I got to know her and to have this publication of hers. And if you are interested, and you may be selling it directly from her shop, and also keep an eye on Tribe Yarns in case they do. Again, like I always say these things, like if you want to buy it, this is how you can do it. It's not because I am sponsored, it's not because I feel like anyone should feel like they have to buy stuff all the time. It's just because I get asked. So that's the only thing. Don't feel like you ever have to. I just always have to put that out there. It's the podcaster struggle. You know, it's a hard life. So, as I have been hinting throughout this episode, is that I was on a 3-day holiday. Accurate, I was. It was on Tuesday last week, whenever, I don't know what this is coming up, but I was sat in my heavily air-conditioned office at work for a change because it was so hot outside, and I read the weather forecast and it said that it was going to get hotter and hotter and hotter until it was going to be 39 degrees on the coming Thursday. And I was like, I can't, like the office I was working in was so air conditioned, I was freezing, and then as soon as I went outside and went home, it was too hot to even sleep. Because this room has a way of like doubling whatever temperature is outside. Unless it's cold, then it does the other way around. It's, I don't know who built these things. Anyway, so I was genuinely like, I'm not gonna be productive if I'm in London when it's like that. I can't. So I just looked up some last minute tickets to various places in the world, and I compared it to the temperatures that was forecast for those days, and I found that the coldest place that I could actually afford going to the next day was Bergen in Norway. So I'm like, well, of course. So I got last minute tickets that didn't even cost that much more than I would have paid if I had bought this way in advance. And my lovely friend Christina, the girl who modelled Floof, said that her flat was going to be empty because she was on holiday, and she told me how I could get in, and yeah, I had a place to stay. I've obviously been there before, so I knew how to make my way around. It was quite sad that my friends Christina and Anna weren't actually there, so I could have hung out with them, but still, it was just amazing. It wasn't actually until I was there that I realized how much I needed a holiday. I try not to get like super on a downer on the podcast, and some things are just personal, but I've been really worked up and stressed out lately. It's not been healthy at all. If my stress level had like an alarm system, it would be like blinking red lights and bells, you know. And I didn't even notice. I was just kind of really worked up. And when I arrived in Norway and I was just like sat in parks knitting, having a nice lolly, I was just, I could exhale, you know. And it's like, yeah, it was only like for 2-3 days, but still I needed that holiday. And it's like, in a way, I can see the kind of ironic kind of hypocrisy of like fleeing a massive heat wave caused by global warming, which is partially caused by flights, and I'm taking a flight, and I even had someone quite rudely point that out to me and calling it an unnecessary travel. It was very necessary for my well-being. I really needed that, so it's like, I don't often like believe in the like geographical solutions of problems and just flying away from them, but it did help. And honestly, like, I wish I didn't even like flying. I've kind of started to develop a sort of fear, which is weird because I've never been afraid of flying. Like when I was like 3, I would be like, Mom, do you want me to hold your hand? Yeah, I did say that. 3 years old. Anyway, so, but lately I've had quite an aversion to it that I only realized when I'm sat there. And honestly, if I could take a train, like if they could just build tunnels from London to the major cities in Norway, I would have taken the train. I don't care how much longer it takes. I would much rather have done that, but that's just not how it works. So you gotta fly. And it was just amazing, and I evaded the heat wave, and I felt so much better for it. I feel really sorry for everyone who were left behind in the UK. I hope you survived. I hope none of you melted. But of course, when in London, aside from meeting my baby cousin, who is now like 20 and not 11 like she was when I moved from Norway, and also Birger, who's a Norwegian designer, I also bought some yarn and some books and lots of food. I had to like really squash out a lot of zits on my face before putting on makeup today, because I ate a lot of amazing food, but cheese doodles are not good for your face. just to put that out there. Cheese doodles is an amazing snack, just cheesy crisps basically. But yeah, I'm suffering for it. Anyway, you want to see what I bought, but yeah, I can't stop thinking about my little holiday and the importance of just taking a break. It doesn't matter if you actually go away and, you know, sort of spending money thing again. It's just being able to check in on yourself and giving yourself that break. And often it has to come from a place where you're almost resisting demands around you and going, no, I have to put myself first right now. I have to, or I'm not going to be useful to anyone. And I'm not saying it was a cure, like things are still really stressful anyway. Whatever, the books I bought. So funnily enough, and I pointed this out to the cashier, I was like, these books look similar. Kind of similarly styled, but I don't think they have anything to do with one another. So I'm going to talk about the lighter one first, the more light reflective friendly one. It's kind of a ridiculous purchase because I'm pretty sure I have all these patterns, or most of them, in like the kind of booklets that they sell. But this is from Rauma. This is Kofter og gensere fra Rauma. So cardigans and sweaters from Rauma, basically. You know Rauma, they're the ones who make Finull, Vams, PT2, now that's been discontinued. Other PT yarns, Lammull, Røros Lammull, they're amazing. I love Rauma. And they do patterns as well, kind of sort of your usual sort of Norwegian recipe type patterns, raglans, yoke, satin sleeves, like kind of drop sleeves, satin sleeves I should say, like this kind of sheep. So this is the Norwegian white sheep, where the vast majority of the wool, the yarn in Norway is made from. They were so cute and dumb, and I love them. So here's one sweater. This one is beautiful. They're so trendy, Rauma, nowadays. Seriously. Yeah, definitely have these patterns. That cardigan is very cute. Look at that. This sweater is so cool. Like, it would look awkward on me, but it's really cool on her. And I am so set on making this cardigan. I will make it. I already had the pattern for ages, but I will make it. Mark my words, one day I will have it. And I'm gonna make a blanket that's gonna match it, just because. So yeah. This book I've wanted for quite some time, and I would have maybe put it on my Christmas wish list, but really just didn't want to wait. The other book I have been desperate for. Like, I was this close to just like asking some friends of mine if they could just ship it to me, but in the end I had the opportunity to go and pick it up myself, and I nearly missed it on the shelf even, because it's like, it's big, it's really big. So if you don't know, this is made by Annemor Sundbø. Annemor Sundbø has actually received a medal from the king for her work on knitwear in Norway, and that's pretty serious. She, when she was young, bought this kind of wool recycling factory, where basically the whole job was to take apart old knitwear to fill into mattresses. And she found that there was a lot of history in this pile of garments that she'd been asked to destroy. and so instead she's just made a gazillion of books to show people the history of Norwegian hand knitting and patterns and styles and history, and it's like pure academic historical work. This is just not like your usual casual knitting pattern book. This is like a coffee table history book. I have several of her books. I'm not sure I have them all, but that's the goal. Yeah, here she is. She is just a walking talking source of wisdom. I am just in awe of this woman and the work that she's done. But yeah, she basically goes through like these snapshots of a lot of the sweaters that she found and kind of sorts them out and talks about the motifs, what they mean. I have barely looked through this book. Obviously I just got back from holiday, so it's, yeah, but just so much inspiration in these books. I feel like I can, with a bit more confidence, you know, talk about Norwegian knitting and traditions now that I have this to kind of fall back on and understand the origins a bit. I just keep showing you photos, but it's a massive book. I couldn't possibly hope to show you all of it, but I can wholeheartedly already recommend it. I already know the quality and standards of her books. Of course I have many of them, and yeah, I can try to translate what's at the back of the book. It's written in Norwegian, so bear with me, it could be a bit awkward. Okay. Norwegians have always loved Norwegian cardigans with lice, squares, and the 8-leaf rose. So that's the Sundbø star, if you Norwegian star as often called. And this is, oh, I love this point. This is what I wanted to get to as well. But are the amazing cardigan patterns as completely Norwegian as we like to believe? Now, author Annemor Sundbø have thoroughly approached kind of finding out where the patterns on the famous and loved cardigans of ours, where they come from. And I love that she's actually challenging a lot of these often sort of problematic notions that the things that we see as purely Norwegian, that they actually aren't, that we always had influences from all over the world, and especially all over Europe and neighboring areas. And I personally am quite invested in the idea that believing that something is like purely Norwegian is quite problematic, because it leaks into a lot of contemporary political issues that are quite harmful to a lot of minority groups. And so I think believing in the pure Norwegian-ness of things it's just not a good idea, and I love when that's being challenged in a book like this. That was quite big soapboxy all of a sudden for me there, but I really appreciate that. We have to kind of shake off this idea of purity. It's oof, yeah. So I find that it helps to often just show people that, yeah, look, that thing that you think is Norwegian, like the Norwegian star, it's probably not Norwegian. Like, it's been talked about being from maybe Spain or maybe even Egypt, and like it's more looking like it's Mediterranean than anything. There's probably more information about that in here, so I shouldn't be fishing up from memory, but I haven't read it yet, so I'm gonna keep reading the blurb. I'm gonna keep translating. With a starting point in her enormous collection of old cardigans, the author has skeined herself backwards, is the interesting pun here that only works in Norwegian, in the knitting history, all the way back to the oldest stories. So Koftearven, the name of the book, is a mix of cultural history, memories, myths, hypotheses. Annemor Sundbø has herself 25 years of experience with recycling wool from knitting scraps, with support and leading threads from modern, you know, knowledge networks. She conveys which different roles the knitting art and pattern tradition have played throughout the times, affected by, you know, folk beliefs, religion, politics, kind of community economies, societal economies, and fashion. And the book gives a perspective on the value of the past knitting art and the inheritance that it's carried through to today's cardigan tradition, which has become our contemporary Norwegian national treasure. So the book contains also a knitting guideline with patterns and kind of templates. That means that you can knit a lot of great traditional garments with your own kind of touch. This is right up my alley. It's just like a lot of these things that want to go very traditional and lovey-dovey Norway can get a little bit problematic in my mind. So I quite like when it's with this sort of more critical point of view. It's not, I don't even think it's like intentional, it's just really honest and looking at the history. And I love how it's also really honest with the kind of political history of knitting, because it's always been. So yeah, this book, coffee table book, yes, probably also only available in Norwegian. But this is the publication, so if you have issues with the translation being only Norwegian, maybe you want to get in touch with them and let them know. If you are a publishing agency who do translate and you maybe have worked with their books before, maybe that's, you know, something you could do. I don't know, it might already be in the works for all I know. I'm just a very enthusiastic customer. So anyway, I did buy some yarn in Norway, okay. I got a whole bag full. So there's a lot of really great yarn shops in Bergen. There are several, but I'm gonna recommend you 3. Okay, 3 is a good number. There is Norwegian Spirit, which is right by the trains at the train station. Like, there's a whole shopping center there, but actually by the rail tracks there is Norwegian Spirit, which they got everything. Like, they got the most like latest trendy stuff, and they have the old commercial brands, and yeah, everything. I really like that shop. There's also Husfriden, which is really good. It's got all my favorite yarns and lots of sort of traditional folky arty things, like folk costumes, good stuff. And thirdly, the shop that I chose to purchase from this time was Strikkelist, which probably has the biggest selection in the entire city. Mostly of the big commercial companies, but also some companies that you wouldn't normally expect to find, which is like Permin and Filcolana. And I bought a little bit of permin. I would have bought Filcolana as well, but I didn't have a plan for it, so it didn't quite work. And yes, they also do Finur, of course. So I got 3 of this. This is from Permin. This is Esther, which is a yarn I've always wanted to use, because it's a cotton wool blend, a bit less hot than the usual wools, you know. And I can't believe how many meters this little ball has. It looks like sort of plump fingering weight, right? 230. That's a lot on this thing, that it looks like it would be like maybe between 170 to 200. I'm being very nerdy now, okay? So yeah, I got 3 and I've actually cast it on. So this, I'm thinking, is going to be that beautiful top that I forgot what it's called in the latest pom-pom by Sidereal. I am going to knit a size smaller than mine with bigger needles, because I thought the gauge was awfully tight for something that's supposed to be summery, and this yarn is so plump. I think that will look nicer personally. If I'd used a finer yarn like Holst Coast, it probably would have been better at the gauge to get the desired stitch definition. But here, I think this will be good, and a little bit quicker. That doesn't really hurt either. So yeah, already knitting on that. But I'm really enjoying the linen thing, so I may put this aside. And I also got 6 of this, and I'm hoping to make this top that I forgot what it's called. It's part of that Quids & Co collection with linen yarn where they're all black, and this is the one with the like nice feather and fan design at the front. You all know what it's called. I don't remember. Maybe I'll put it here if I remember. So I got 6, and I think that'll be enough, but might not be. Yeah. So this is Lina, and I would say you could make the Solvik shirt with this as well. Obviously I haven't tried, but I don't see why not. It would be, it's a little bit finer, this yarn. Just be aware of that. But I don't see why not. And you could also, of course, experiment with a tighter gauge than I've done and do a bigger size. It should work fine. But yeah, I think that would be good. And what's next? Oh, I also bought the thinner equivalent of the yarn, so I also got 4 of this. This is Tynn Lina. You have seen it on the podcast before because I ended up buying a lilac version, which I'm probably going to destash. So Tynn Lina, it's probably going to be one of the Åsa Tricåsa summer shirts. I forgot what they're called, so I'm going to put that down here as well. I bought all 4 because if you buy them all 4 then you get half price or something like that, something similar. And I wanted all 4 because I basically collect her patterns because I am such a fangirl. And yeah, I'm gonna have a go at those because I can't imagine even just like all the techniques and the yumminess, and just, yeah, very excited to have a go at that. I'm almost like thinking I might cast it on after I finish recording this, even though I got other things that needs finishing, like the mitten club. I mean, oh my god. Oh. So in the end, that was my stay in Norway. It was just 3 beautiful days. I traveled up there on Wednesday, immediately met up with my cousin who showed me around town. Spent a bit of that time just fixing up my phone that was acting up, so I couldn't get any internet. And yeah, just generally hung out with this little girl who's like become an adult while I was away, which is kind of weird. Like, she was just a little kid, like she was born when I was 9. Like, I remember her being a baby, and now she's like 20 and showing me around town. Like, yeah, wow. She's like taller than me, and it's like, how? Yeah, so that was super nice, and I really enjoyed Bergen. It's a beautiful city. It's funny, like Bergen and Trondheim have this weird rivalry. It's kind of like a Liverpool Manchester kind of thing, because we're the 2nd and 3rd largest cities in the country, so you're not supposed to like Bergen if you're from Trondheim, but to that I say ha. So quite like Bergen. I'm more likely to move to Bergen than Trondheim, let's just put it that way. And I love Trondheim. It's not like I think Bergen is better, it's just that it's bit bigger, bit more happening, bit more it's a lot more rain. They got rain. Bergen rains all the time, rains almost every day. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but not a very big one. You know that's true if you live there. Always in the nicest summery days you will still get a little bit of a drizzle because of the mountains and everything. So yeah, absolutely loved it. It was also really lovely to meet up with Birgit. He's Birgit Berge on Instagram, and he's coming out with a book soon, which I'm so excited to see. His style is very much up my alley, so of course that's probably not surprising to anyone. So yeah, when I returned to London, I was ready, set and go for Fibres. So this year was my 3rd Fibres, and I was just heading up there on my own for a change, and that was really nice. So I met up with some friends of mine there, some local friends from London, so we mostly hung out, and I saw people there who I knew, and it was all just lovely. And of course I made some purchases, but the weird thing is I nearly didn't buy any yarn. In the end I almost bought one just because you gotta buy some yarn. So I did, of course, and I'm really happy with my choice. This skein here is a self-striping skein from the Knitting Swede. It's called Mini Rainbow Carbon on the base, Stride HT. So it's 80% superwash blue face less than 20% nylon. Good twist on this yarn. I wish that dog would shut it. Oh well. I'm really having dog cravings lately. That sounded very wrong. I don't eat them. I mean, I want cuddles. I really just need a dog right now. Very nice sturdy yarn. I love this whole idea of a grey and the other colours popping through, and yeah, just gonna be some vanilla socks. So yeah, it's from the Knitting Swede, and they also do really good solids there. There's an amazing Gotland base, a Gotland blend that I was this close to buying, but I'm like, I don't know what I would make with it. I can't. But yeah, the seller there, he's a very good salesman. It's a close one, but I just ended up with this skein. And I got my usual kind of Chayagoo, pimp up my needle collection there. I never usually talk about when I buy needles because it's something I do quite frequently, and it's usually Chayagoos. Sometimes it's Hayahayas, it's rarely any other brands right now. I do still like Knit Pros and Prim and Addies, but kind of depends on context, and more often than not I will get Chayagoos and Hayahaya Steels. Case you were wondering. But I think needles, such a subjective preference thing. Like, I never touch wooden needles where other people swear by them. It's all individual, and that's fine. So yeah, needles. And I got some buttons from Textile Garden. They have amazing buttons. Like, I am quite picky about buttons. This is Textile Garden, just to give you that info. Yeah, I'm usually quite picky about buttons. I struggle to find buttons that I like in the UK, and I was also quite bummed to find that the button shop in Bergen was closed for the summer. But Textile Gardens have both really affordable buttons and in a style that I really like. So I got just a bunch. I just didn't even think. I was like, cheap buttons that are nice, yay! So I'm gonna try to show you all of them. Okay, so, whoa. It's a bit of a handful of buttons here. So, whoa. I get 8 of each. That's my rule. So I got these lovely blue buttons. Yeah. This is an awkward way of showing you, but you get the idea. These that were so cheap, that's kind of how they lured me in, to be honest. It's nice wooden looking plastic buttons. This was quite possibly my favorite. It's got this stag head on it, because obviously Skeindeer had to have it. It's metal, it's a bit heavier than the other ones, but perfect for a good cardigan. And these buttons, they were kind of like coins. They look like coins. Coins that are really hard to focus on, as it turns out. My other hand is busy with holding the button, so this just gonna have to do it, guys. It's really thin. It is really like a coin, like a very thin coin. So yeah, those, I got 8 of each of these. That's why there are so many in here. And they're just going to my button collection. And yeah, I tend to use 8 buttons on pretty much everything I make. So that's 8 buttons for 4 garments that I don't know what's gonna be yet. So what did I buy then? If I didn't buy yarn and I got those buttons, I got 5 project bags, and I'm not lacking in project bags, but it just kind of snowballed a bit. Like, first of all, I saw Jibbyroo Sews, and as ever, because I still think they're severely undercharged, I got 2 bags rather than 1 to kind of, you know, balance it out, I guess. So that's, I'm gonna start there. I had to have this because deer, right? It's big. This is really big. This is a massive bag, and I love making big garments, so that's never a bad thing. It's seriously big, you guys. And it's nice. It's not super heavy. It's like sturdy, but yeah. And the capacity, I mean, it's got this really cute pattern on the inside. Yeah, flat bottom. It's gonna, I mean, it's big. Okay, I have a really big head. So it's got a zipper, and I also got a drawstring bag, and I think this is like a new sort of shape for them. The very big box bottom, and yes, this beautiful, really cool owl print. So much capacity in this thing. I don't even, oh, I love the print on the inside too, but mostly I just got it for the owl. Yeah, I don't, there's a lot of these sideways handles going around. I don't find myself using them a lot, but I suppose I could get used to them. But I'm mainly here just for the drawstring fun, because I love a good drawstring and I love a good owl print. I love owl prints. Like, all my stationery is just like owl prints. Jibbyroo Sews, 2 bags, same procedure as every year. And I could not walk away from this when I saw it. This is so cute. This is adorable. I love this bag. This might just be my favorite. So this is by Bellica Yarns. So yeah, that's a nice focus there. And yeah, I love woodland prints. It's even better if it's a wintry woodland print. So there was no question, had to have it. It's got pretty decent capacity actually, so I might use this for my linen top, because I seem to be hosting 2 projects with the bag that I was initially using, which was also by Jibbyroo Sews from last year. But this is not, this is Bellica Yarns. So yeah, it's so cute. So I kind of ended up using this as my handbag for Fibres, because my blister bag got soaked. I left it on the ground, stupid me, and it was so wet because it'd been raining so much. So lovely Lola of Third Vault Yarns gave me this tote bag later on so I could put my things in it. So this is a Lola tote bag that I just thought I'd show you in between the bags that I bought, because it segues really nicely into this bag. Lola had already showed me this in photos that she was working on these. This is serious quality. This is everything. I mean, like, even the zipper is like a YKK zipper. Like, there's like attention paid to everything. I don't know why I noticed the zipper first. Pardon my brain. Okay, nice box bottom. This whole tag is a nice wooden tag. I'm going to show you what it says. Yeah, this is a collaboration between Third Volt Yarns and Knit Run Dig. And this bag, oh, the whole sturdiness of the quality. Oh, I don't know how to sew. I know nothing about sewing, but this is a bag like this. The handle, and I love when they think about which side the zip should go on, because you're carrying it this way and you may feel like you need to close it up a bit. It's important that the zipper is this way, okay? Right, so it doesn't fall out and you get the strand coming out here. They thought about everything with these bags, and I will admit I mainly just bought it because I love the whole like psychedelic kind of thing happening here. It's sort of like, I'm just like imagining a TARDIS kind of tumbling down the spiral here, you know, traveling to wherever. And all these bags were completely unique. Like, they were all different from each other. And I think I just immediately jumped to the one that Lola had shown me the week prior, or the 2 weeks prior. I don't remember. Time's gone by really fast this month. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, it's my third, fourth project bag. So I thought I was done at this point. I did, but I walked up to this other booth carrying this as my handbag, okay, and then we had to laugh because people often sometimes buy fabrics the same place. Okay, just for comparison. It's a different color, okay? So I had to write down who this is by because it's not written on the bag. The Fibre Fox, I did remember this, I just wanted to check. So the Fibre Fox had amazing bags. I wanted them all, but of course I bought the one similar to one I already bought because matchy. So this is a really big bag as well, and has a lot of capacity because I love a good box bottom. So seriously, this is big. Right? I'm gonna make a lot of sweaters, but we already knew that. So that's my 5th project bag, which I like to see as like an intention to knit up all my yarn rather than keep buying more yarn, which I have done. So seriously, I'm gonna be so annoyed with that dog when I'm editing. Just it's London life. But just checked, someone had the audacity to walk past where the dog lives. Rude. So just looking around me now, I think I have actually talked about everything that I have made its way into this one little room that is my life. Yeah, so if you're new to this podcast, I live in one room. I live in a fairly central London flat share. So with all my yarn and crazy hobby / knitting design job, I live in a knitting studio essentially. It's got a bed in it. It's rented out as a bedroom, to be fair, but it's like 90% knitting in here, so it always has to find a space to be, which is a challenge, but going with it. Yeah, I always feel like I'm a bit self-conscious about these things. Well, not self-conscious even, but just kind of trying to be mindful. And I talked about this before, about all this stuff about purchases and like kind of creating an expectations that that's what people do and that's what people should do, and it's just not really my intention. I just kind of like to inspire and share and give ideas, but not in a way that makes people feel less than, that makes people think that, oh, I'm not really into this if I'm not into this. Because like, I was still like a big time badass knitter before I spent more than, what, £50 for the whole year on yarns, you know, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I was pretty clever with like my purchases back then, and now I'm just like, take my money, and kind of giving in a bit. But that doesn't necessarily reflect the rest of the quality of my life, which is like not something I should really have to talk about that much, but just like I live in a flat share because I can't afford anything else. I live with people I don't particularly would maybe have chosen to live with, just because that's how you can afford living in a place that is really expensive. And yeah, and so I just don't want people to think that I'm sort of living this life of luxury or anything. I mean, some do, and that's fine, but I feel like that would be a bit misrepresentative. I'm just kind of making these priorities, I guess. Like, I don't have a car, I don't really drink, I only have myself to think about. I live on my own, well, if you don't count the flatmates, I guess. So where was I going with this? I'm just kind of trying to paint myself as, I guess, a normal person with a pretty intense hobby. Yeah. So I hope you have all been well. I hope you have, you know, survived the heat wave. I know it's traveled a bit further north now, so now the Norwegians are suffering. And I'm gonna go to a birthday party later today, so I probably should get ready for that. And with that, I just wanted to thank you all so much for watching and for sticking with me, and I will see you next time. Bye!